So you're in Sydney.
Yes, I'm just north of Sydney.
Oh yeah, yeah. Have you been there a long time?
I actually lived in the US for about 16 years and I returned to Australia in 2008. So around 14 years I've been
Oh,
back in this country.
wow. Well, y'all have had quite the experience for the last 3 years. I mean, the whole world has, but Australia seemed to be like ground zero for everything, right? I mean, fires, floods, the hard stance that the government took during that whole COVID thing. I mean, um,
Yeah,
the people, some of those marches, they got huge. I mean, it was amazing, it really
it's
was.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's always been interesting to me because, like in the Soulogy demographics, like in the top 10 or 12 cities, 5 of them are everything on the East Coast and even Perth,
Mm.
Adelaide, Perth. I think they have them categorized as Queensland, Sydney, Melbourne. They're all up there, and it's about 10% or 15% of the total demographics. So, I think there's a lot of very lit people in Australia. I have a feeling.
I agree. I agree.
All right, we got 28 people in the house. Welcome, everybody. We have a beautiful sister, Jo Gifford, with us from Sydney. And as usual, typical Soulogy style, um, we don't know each other. We're just going to spontaneously have a conversation.
Yeah.
So, God, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the famous question? Have you always been this weird, or did you have a wake up experience?
Well, actually, what I'd like to start with is some light language because it's really coming up within me to start the conversation with that,
Okay,
if I may.
absolutely.
Chotakariachetsukana, Shuyena Makikatariashte Sukanania Chakatska Ati Ebete Enakuna. Ijotariashi Kutsaka Ati Ashia Nanokokombo Reti Nenaka. Ijotea Sukumuyatsuko Oshia Shia Sananiaka. Idudariashi Kumbeti Enonokoyatsaka. They are really honoring you, Todd. Oshia Bukundariashia Saka Ati Netutanania Nanaka. Idoriashia Sekumbu Uteananakika, Ejuteana, and your little tribe of people that hop on and watch all the interviews. Ejutianakaya, Edudeacha, Udedeacha. And I'm sort of seeing like a volcano energy coming out and spreading from this little portal
Mm,
around the earth. Ejutenia kundea chetsa.
mm, thank you. I didn't know it was going to be about me and Soulogy, but that was very powerful. Um, yeah, let me just take it in for a minute.
Always sort of breathe and feel and allow the frequencies
Mm-hmm.
to absorb. It's like a soul tech, it's like a spirit technology, and it bypasses the rational brain that has doubt or disbelief, and it just drops into the soul. It drops into your frequency to supplement and change what you are emitting so that the world begins to reflect that change within you.
True. Yes, that's true. And it's, people say surrender, but it's beyond surrender, I think. It's just being totally open. Because really,
Mm.
what you're describing is what we're really moving into each and every moment. I mean,
Yeah,
that seems to be the direction we're headed.
yeah, there's more and more higher frequencies coming towards the earth that haven't, like in amounts that we've never seen before.
Right.
And the reason the light language has come at the same time, and more people are speaking it, because it's time to give us a bit more of an assist to get around all of the programming we've been subjected to for goodness knows how long. And so these old programs are sort of rusted on, and the light language and the incoming energies are sort of breaking up and dissolving that rust, so that we then can begin that increase in frequency.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we have a choice at this point. It's kind of like we bought the ticket, take the ride. Because I mean, I don't know about you. You're a practitioner, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So you see a lot of people. But I don't know about you on a personal level or, through your clients. But the last couple of months, or maybe since the summer, has just been mind blowing. The speed of what's been happening. Have you been feeling that?
Well, I'm work with inner child healing.
Mm-hmm.
So people that I'm seeing are so ready to look at that and move through those dense, heavy energies that are associated with that childhood trauma. They're just letting it go, letting it go. And really, the other name for your inner child or your inner child trauma is your past life unfinished business.
Mm-hmm.
It's the stuff that you've been trying to resolve lifetime after lifetime, but haven't because of this the level of control that has been around the planet. So with the people I'm working for, people are just willing to dive into stuff that they weren't willing to look at before or even aware of before. So the energies that are coming in, how I define it is we've been like rowing across a pond or a lake, and there are other people rowing, and we are traveling through life, and they occasionally lob rocks at you and your boat gets um, upset and everything. But there will be emotions that are in the sediment of the pond that you never look at, that you've not been aware of or afraid to look at. And this incoming energy is moving that sediment up, 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 for us to finally see it and feel it and clear it. And so we are really looking at some deep layers, because we are at this incredible point on this planet of that critical mass of moving into that next frequency.
Is there only going to be one? No,
Well,
I mean it's. No, I'm just kidding. But like, do you notice? Is it? Are the clients at this time, at this point, with your practice, are they are they getting through it quicker? Are they connecting and clearing quicker? And do you think it has to do with the expanded consciousness or their desire to make it happen?
I would say it's both. Like I feel that it's unfolding according to almost like a symphony. So when you look at a symphony, there are notes
Mm-hmm.
and it moves through. And this symphony was sort of written a long time ago. And we knew that we would be going through these releases right now because the time is opportune, because of this inflowing energy. So it's a combination of our destiny, what we set up on our timeline, and a lot of us who are here as starseeds, who are here to assist this transformation, we knew we were going to be coming into certain genetic lines that we were going to help clear, and that we would face certain challenges. And in facing them with this deeper awareness that we're actually maybe not aware of here, we are sending our experience out into the morphogenetic field.
Mm-hmm.
So we are braver, we're the strongest of the strong, as it's been described. So it is all perfect. So it's a combination of our willingness, because on a soul level, we were always going to be willing at this point on this evolutionary path, and the incoming energy to help with that transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very well explained. Yeah, across all timelines and dimensions. It's becoming very human, very much in the body, as per people, what they're reporting, you know. Um, and, I had this thought last night. At what point do we as quantum thought creators say, why are we suffering? Why is there even pain? Why does this do we have to go through this process? Is this or are we not, made in the image? I mean, it feels like I like the way that you use the word tech, but it feels like the tech is coming on in a really big way, for the human hybrid soul.
Yes. But as for this is just my experience with my people and my own self. I've been on my own spiritual journey since I was 27. So this has been my life focus above anything else that I've done in my life. What has held us in this place of, I suppose, if you want to, let's sort of call it 3D, but what has held us heavy and dense is the emotions that we've never healed, the traumas that we've never healed, the heavy, dense energies of anger or jealousy or comparison, etc. So they're very dense and they are encoded in our energy system, in the energy that we are emitting. So yes, there is more tech coming on, but we can't bypass the stuff that we've been too afraid to feel.
True.
So, utilize the tech, we have to move through these things that are really a part of our unfinished business, these issues that we've never completed or gained the wisdom of.
Right.
So that's what sort of doing, that's what I've been doing, is assisting people to see what their unfinished business is, to understand that in this lifetime, it was set up and encoded in the early years, so that as we got older, we would draw to us situations and people that would trigger us to feel this unfinished business, to feel these heavy, dense emotions, and to understand and make a different choice, as you say at the end. So, if your unfinished business is low self worth and you have people coming to you who put you down, you never get acknowledged, etc., and you are triggered to feel grief around that, you have to feel the grief, feel the emotion, and then come to a place of saying, you know what, I know I am worthy. I
Mm.
know I have value simply because I breathe, simply because I exist and I'm a child of God. Because one of the things, or one of the plight of humanity is that really unconditional love doesn't exist here. Parents come close, uh, people come close to it, but the struggles that we go through day to day pull us out of that unconditional state. And so, how we are dealing with people is not through unconditional love, it tends to be conditional.
Yeah. 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 I agree. And I agree that you can't have access to the tech unless you're doing the work.
Mm.
I mean, I think this part of it, what we've been conditioned, what we've experienced, we've now had reflection. There's enough people that, so it's pretty common knowledge, what it is, and then it becomes how do we make the conversion? How do we transform? So yeah, I can see. But what I really like about what you had to say is how you described what's left in us, and what's left in us is the deepest of the deep of the deep, and these things are becoming conscious by whatever means necessary, right? And uh,
Yes.
and we're having to look at these things, and it's really been, I think, a grind on people, especially the last few weeks. I mean, it's all over these communities on social media, and I think that it's been quite a jolt. But the tech is coming on, And I think part of maybe a way to ease into it or to get a more comfortable grip on it is to think about what you said, and that these things are the deepest of the deep. Some of these things are going back lifetimes and lifetimes that we've carried over in our soul lineage to expand or heal, if you want to put it in human terms. So I think that's, that makes me feel better because it's not so localized. Everything's been so much about this life and all the traumas. A lot of people call this a summary life, where energetically you're actually experiencing the sum of all your lives. So, yeah, I like the way you accentuate the depth of the coal that we're going to turn to gold.
Mm. Well, according to quantum mechanics, time is not linear, and that everything is now. So when you are triggered to feel an emotion, sometimes, and it is, as you say, particularly in the last weeks and months, it seems overwhelming. And the reason is that every lifetime, say the issue is powerlessness. So every lifetime where you were trying to resolve the issue of powerlessness is actually connected energetically and is actually happening now. So because this is this important point in our evolutionary path where we are right now, we are really attempting to heal powerlessness in every life that we've ever experienced it, which is why it feels so overwhelming. But what I explain or what I know is that when you turn and face it and look the energy and feel the feelings in the eye, you move through it faster. What has kept it as so active in our lives is that we've learned to push it away. And the little kids, we as children do this. We split off the emotion that we experience as little ones because it's too hard to feel. It's too hard to process. You feel overwhelmed. So the children, little kids, push it off. And what we have to do is actually start to begin to feel where it's anchored in the body. So the process that I take people through is to identify the moments or the patterns that you've been living over and over in your life that are related to these heavy, dense energies that are not just here, but in all other existences where that was something we were trying to gain the wisdom of, and for whatever reason, we're not able to.
Well, I mean, it's moving so fast too. So what, certain processes and pathways have become outgrown. And it's like we're running more on innateness, instinct, intuition, telepathy, synchronicity, um, and that's something to consider because you mentioned the body. The body is probably, I don't know about you and I don't know about everybody else, but in the last couple of years, the body has grown the fastest of all aspects of my consciousness. It's coming online big time. And I think when you say to locate it in the body, and tie that together with, the fact that it is quantum, it's not linear. So when we're feeling that emotion that's tied to that deep, dark block of blockage or whatever it is, we're actually containing all those timelines. You're absolutely right. And so the transformation can be done more and more instantaneously. And I'm just wondering if it's going to go to a point where we're becoming less verbal, less, more of the you could say the 3D is falling off of us, where we're going to be able to just be in such a state of presence, and maybe some people are already there, where they can just basically look at their body without any judgment or any, what I mean, just looking at it almost like a scan and just locating spots that are, uncomfortable or out of balance, and focusing on those and aligning or neutralizing them or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I don't know. It's just moving so fast. It's almost like we're speaking a new language every 3 days.
Well, I get what you're saying. And for me, it's what you're saying is we develop the observer within us more and more and don't identify with the emotions. The emotions are not us. They are an experience that we wanted to have on one level to gain the experience of what it is to live in a world of polarity. Can I speak some more light language? It's coming up for me to explain what I'm
Yes,
saying, light
yes,
language.
of course.
So it's a big concept, and so the language wants to give you a shortcut to understand it, which will unfold within you over the next few days and weeks. Ijutariashia sukuriashia si ambariki kinia tsakaria taraki kumbanda. Ejutia saraki kandariashia sana. Idudariashaka. Ubati ekia adariashia nsukutariam bakapapachik unzeechik unzeetia nanakaka. Ijutiashia sukuriacha. Amba kanotaya.
That was like a set of encyclopedias. That was a lot of
Mm.
information. You could feel it.
Yeah, it
Thank
will.
you.
It's like you got a download that will slowly unpack, unfold, and it changes your energy signature that you are emitting. So you will begin to experience that download in your life. But one of the things I wanted to say is the reason that we are coming online, the reason that this tech is coming up is because we are finally realizing that we are divine. We are finally realizing that we are the creators of our life and that we are pulling the power out of the external world and putting it back in us. And it's because we are beginning to see the corruption of the people that have been ruling, the governments, the institutions, the mainstream religions are all about control. And we have been conditioned to give our power away to them. And over the last couple of years, particularly, but this lifetime, we, beginning with the 60s, the movement in the 60s, we have begun to question what we've given our power away to. So over the last however many years, we've been slowly realizing that we are divine. We are that fractal of God, and that we are here on a journey of exploration to make known the unknown. Ejuyenna mandiendo kayana nyonda nyona nanianda. Amboyendo yenda yokonyenzen no yande ongianda. He ambuyendi unde.
Very nice. Thank you. Yes,
There's
we
actually
are.
quite a few pushing, wanting to speak.
Well, keep going if you want to. Keep going.
Ishiangaki teneya. Sitote koinyande kitanata. Itokiata tiotsena. These are the Alpha Centauri's. Itoti nakabati shtende tutayaka. Ikoteana. Ikokeatsi sensutsende botanayaka. What a marvelous adventure we are on. Ejutenze tukaniaka. And they watch on like with interest and with excitement as we begin to finally remember who we are. Remember that we are the lawgiver and the creators within our reality. Ejuti natie beto, etukanayat setsi, setsi, setsi.
Yes. And even on a wider scale, not so much like this, but more subtly even. That's another thing that's really contributing to the contagious factor of our expansion is we're constantly now, as everybody's raising in frequency, uh, sharing code.
Oh,
and
yep.
it's becoming, really more of a beehive intelligence in the physical, in the conscious human, where
Mm.
telepathy and intuition are becoming irrefutable and more reliable, and the drivers, as opposed to what we'd been doing. So yeah, like, so feeling anything, when people open up their heart, and they're that channel, like you're doing, it's an amazing. It's always amazing. It can be a lot of different ways, but it's always amazing, because the only thing that would keep it from being amazing would be our own resistance, judgment, whatever. Uh, it's truly another. It's you presenting something with pure openness to you, and it's powerful. And I think
Mm.
it's happening more and more with
It
people.
is. It is absolutely, yeah. And we're beginning to trust that connection more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Trust that we are worthy of that connection because, we've been told over and over the lifetimes that we don't really have any value. That, it's this is a huge shift we're going through with regard to understanding that we are creator beings.
Yeah, yeah, and everything's changing, like communication, lifestyles. I mean, after COVID, I mean, so many lifestyles have changed. I mean, just so many different things going on. And at the same time, you're what Franco used to call the active consciousness, which is made up of the different, you could say, voices, is changing. It's becoming more intuitive and telepathic, and like you said, there's more confidence with it. And so, what's that going to do as quantum creators? As quantum thought creators, when there really is no linear time. I mean, it's only there, so to speak, as a figment of our imagination now from old programming, and all that old programming's falling away, and that in itself is taking some getting used to. It's like,
Well, it's what's dropping away is things that used to be our identity.
mm-hmm,
We used to see ourselves as this person, this victim, or this person that could only reach this level. So, all the things that were part of our identity, we're now realizing that it isn't who we are, that we're much bigger. And as we start seeing ourselves as greater, the world begins to reflect that. And in a way, there are 7 billion, however many people there are on this planet, there are 7 billion different paths to ascension and enlightenment. And they may look very different from each other.
mm-hmm, that's right. That's exactly right. I mean, I think when you get right down to it, uh, you know, if well, there's a meme that has a bunch of different faces, different cultures and ethnicities, and it says if you can't see God in everyone, you can't see God. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So like we're actually evolving into a space where that's going to be true,
Mm.
and I think there's a lot of evidence that let's say that certain collective programming is gone.
Well, so in when I what I say is that everything in a way is an illusion. That everything that's in your life, every person, every scenario is only there to show you you.
Hmm.
So when you see somebody that you judge, it's showing you something that you can't otherwise see in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at the world from this sort of big picture observer perspective and say, what is this showing me about me? And it's never really about the other person. It's not about the annoying neighbor. It's not about the partner that you're fighting with. It's about you and what they are gifting you as far as showing you a mirror to look at what's in this wave, because it's become so intrinsic to us that we can't identify it. And so what is the the way that this is being a evolutionary tool is our body, and what we are emitting brings to us people that show us ourselves, and it's part of the way we evolve. So you're right, if you can't see God in someone else, you can't see it in you. So it is to say, it isn't about that person. They're showing me part of my frequency signature that I haven't yet been able to identify and gain the wisdom of.
Right. And then add on that Joseph Campbell adage of, if you can't get it here, you can't you're not if you can't get it here, you're not going to get it anywhere. So basically, how we chase that which we already are, right?
Mm.
Like, we found the light, it's been the darkness we've been standing in. That's, you know what I mean? So, yeah. And that's what we're headed for. And I think that's part of the beyond surrender, is to just say, you know what? If that's where we're headed, and that is universal will, and that is, you know, Harios Gamos union, whatever you want to call it, oneness, then why not, you know, have the guts after all these lives just to go ahead and step that direction? I mean, I think there's a lot of people doing it now. I really do. And I think,
Yes, in our community, I would definitely say. And with any luck, it will, as I said, spread out into the morphogenetic field, and people will start to think twice about their judgments, think twice about their prejudices, because now in the energy field, to look with a more kindly, compassionate eye on others.
yeah. Well, yeah, and compassion being seeing people without judgment. And so it takes a conscientious effort, you know. I mean, this is what it's come down to. The human is the decision maker. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, all that other stuff is, if you could look at it, are aspects or information or code, and we contain it all. So the only thing that, you know, well, but that body of us, that part of our body, say it's 99% of it, of our bodies, of our consciousness, they can't make that decision. The human has to make that decision. So I think that's what it's come down to be very human, very present, and and get to know the magic. You know, get to know yourself and get to know each other in this new
Yeah,
environment.
yeah. And to find a balance between living in the world, coping with what we're experiencing, whether that's a lockdown, whether that's a loss of a job, and looking at this as, from the observer, but then to balance that with the amazing dream that we wish to unfold in our lives, which is, full, like switching on all of our powers, being able to teleport, being able to, be psychic and heal people and raise the dead, or whatever it is. So it's to have these amazing ideas and concepts to focus upon, but at the same time being here and now with whatever comes up in your life, because how we get to this future place is through everything that we are experiencing right now. You can't leap over into this. It's about, this is what I still need to understand.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if the lesson is in the experience, you can't leapfrog it, because then you wouldn't have the experience. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, as the days go by, and and as we make progress, and you can look at the journey, you know, and there's a certain knowing too. It seems. I mean, we could take a poll, but this is like the end of a cycle of cycles. This is like the clock going all the way around, you know, after millions of revolutions within it, or, you know what I mean? I mean, there's a feeling like this is a big, big, big coming out party.
Well, I think I've been told that in many respects we will miss this experience
Yeah,
because it has been so unique and challenging
yeah,
and enlightening. And it's hard to believe that at times when you're going through stuff. But this is
Yeah.
a unique experience.
Sorry. I was just thinking about things I used to do 10 or 12 years ago. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's good to laugh, and that's the other thing. I'm running into more and more people who are speaking of things, and a lot of them on this program, uh, in a balanced way that probably took and I can relate to this, and maybe we all can, that took a long time to be able to say it without getting or without a charge, So that's something. Because a lot of
Mm.
what I look for in terms of like trying to gauge where we're at or where I'm at really is the human progression.
Well, you will see what your journey is like by what comes to you in your life.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not sure, how am I doing? How far along am I? What what are the keys to what I need to look at? Just look at your reality. It's telling you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And as you are willing to look at that from that observer, from the point of there's something I can learn from this, as opposed to being victimized or angry about this coming up again, you move through it and things start to change. So the world is really a reflection of where you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and victim consciousness is taking a beating as the days go by. So we're getting a little help there. The Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, third energy. Um, there's definitely something bigger than us. It's like a wave or whatever you want to call it. Um, yeah, yeah. It's getting.
Ujian
Well,
Ijuyan Namukati Atiaka, they're talking about the wave. Ukandaria Beatia Sake Etia Shostian Zakamaka. It's been coming for a long time. The beginnings of that wave. But it's going to be cresting fairly soon. But then again, soon. That's what is soon, but it will be cresting. Ejukamba ote zikinge tsashterkange tunenaka, to change at the atomic level. Oshea shall see kiniaka. Ezuti she shushananamaka, so to speed up. Ujanianarikikana, the electron cloud. Umburiashia zikandariashia saka ati neniandaka, he denunaka. Ajatsaka atiachaka, umbukotariashia sianaka. Ajatsukinge totariashina, umbe. And so this aspect here that, the pineal will be the sort of like a flashlight or a torch shining the way. Embia tukonoyatsa.
hmm. That was another one. There were some different frequencies in that one. I heard a lot of. I heard like a lot of digital, but not from your voice, like in the ethers.
Mm. Well, there's energy in the spaces between the sounds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest if the light language resonates, if any light language resonates with you, to listen to it a few times, and it'll drop in sort of further and further, and start recoding your DNA, start helping you release these heavy, dense energies. This is the time. And because we are the lawgiver, because we are creator beings, you just say, okay, I want this process to happen and unfold inside of me, that the codes that I hear in this light language start this shift and transmutation of my energy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely exciting times. Keep you on your toes. That's for sure.
Yeah.
How was it? Just briefly, how was it going through that whole 2020 and 2021 with the Did you get out of the house much?
Well, look, this is the situation. I hardly experienced any problem. In fact, my life improved
Yeah.
because, as I said, the external world reflects your inner frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that were in the center of the toughest lockdowns were there because it was going to give them a huge opportunity to heal energies that were going to be triggered by that situation. Now, it wasn't like I had different issues. I had memories of childhood sex abuse come up
Mm-hmm.
in that. So for me, it wasn't about lockdown. Lockdown wasn't the issue. And in fact, because everybody was very quiet and there was like everybody was in a retreat,
Mm-hmm.
essentially around the world, it was an incredible time to look at things that you'd never had an opportunity to look at before. So I had my stuff, but it wasn't about any of that. I rode my bike to get coffee every day. I went out walking, I went to the beach. So I had a very different experience. When people say Australia was, terrible, it was. It was mostly in Melbourne. And Melbourne, for whatever reason, was this sort of nexus point of some of this really intense stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there were other parts of Australia that didn't experience it to that. Um,
Yeah.
um, and in a way, the fact that Australia became the focus for this um, was sort of part of the way that it triggered other people around the world,
Mm-hmm.
because Australia is always seen as this, sunshine, lucky country, great standard of living. And for us, who was the ideal holiday destination for many people around the world, for them to see Australia affected this way was in a way more shocking than, say, other countries, because people think, g'day, mate, and throw another shrimp on the barbie type about it.
Give me a Foster's.
Yeah. And so for this laid back holiday type destination to be severely impacted had a deeper effect on people than if it had been somewhere else that was you were observing this from. So there is another layer to what happened in Australia. Yes, Brisbane and Perth, we all experienced it in greater and smaller degrees, but really what was broadcast around the world was what happened to Victoria and
Yeah.
Melbourne,
Yeah.
ultimately, from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, ultimately, if it's so funny because it's ironic at a minimum and paradoxical at a spiritual level. When in terms of like zero pointing or the way that math works, that the intentions were one thing, but the effect or the consequence of the intentions implemented actually put people in isolation, self introspection, living with family
Mm.
members and spouses and kids that they hadn't talked to but been in the same house with for years. Kids
Yeah.
come home. You can't go to work, so it's spectacular. It's
Yeah,
absolutely
everybody
spectacular.
everybody was in a little crucible, being fired, processing his stuff, there's no way to get away from it. So
Mm.
you're right, it happened on a couple of levels. It had an unexpected beneficial
Yeah,
effect on
yeah,
people's evolution.
yeah. You can't fool, like Dick Gregory says, you can't fool with the universal God. Can't do it. And now you have these kids coming in. We get kids,
Mm.
our parents and or some young people. We've had I think as young as 9, but these kids are coming in and they're just lit. And the things that their parents are telling me and telling on the show or whatever, the stories they're just like, and it's like the way I see it is what's happening is these kids will be like 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're in that wonderland. They're lit like we were, and they're not being suppressed. They're being allowed to roam. They're being allowed to talk to their fairy friends and all the different things. And if you think about that, and you got a whole wave of young people coming in. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be just billions of COVID babies. They must already be out there, like that 2 year
Yeah.
period. But think about it, these kids are going to be like it's like alien. But that energy, I just think about it as a tuning fork type of, metaphor. Like that would have to have an impact, you
Yes.
know, on a local level, but on a worldwide level.
Well, I've always thought that things like ADHD and stuff were, and say autism spectrum kids are really in here and they're not really able to cope with these heavy, dense frequencies. And as the frequency begins to rise, they will step into them who they are meant to be. And all of these problems that we have been trying to resolve with whatever therapy or drugs just won't be needed. It'll be that the problem was they couldn't cope with the consciousness of the planet, but they needed to be here for this specific time that's
Right.
coming.
Yeah, I totally agree. And let me restate it my way. uh, these kids are, these that are identified as ADHD and Asperger's.
Mm.
Um, what's the other one? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Like what you're
Yep.
talking about. They're they're more in their multidimensional body than they are their human body. There's no doubt about it. Just like the people that have been identified as mentally ill all these years. Because if you look at the indigenous and the aborigines, these people were revered. They were considered shamans, heyokas, or whatever, but they definitely respected their visions and their experience. And because it was unique, and so, from the other side, they were guided by them, no matter how crazy they were. But I think
Mm.
maybe what's occurred is because we know there was some premeditation here. I mean, we all know the story. It was to label these kids and then try to control them through, the means that they do, which is, separation of class all the way to pharmaceuticals. But if you look at GMOs, chemtrails, fluoride, pharmaceuticals, and everything else that was thrown at us, something's happened, and our bodies are involved, and we've overcome all this. Now, if we have these kids, they're no, the government, whatever, the Illuminati, they're no match for these kids. And I was telling my friend this last night because we have a couple of friends, and people might consider them quirky, but they are so genius, and they're kind of in the community. And I said, what's going to happen is people like that are going to be seen for what they are and the wisdom and the code that they carry
Mm.
very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. It's like Dolores Cannon talks about the waves of volunteers. That the I know that I'm one of the first wave because I'm ready to let these young kids stand up and take over. It's great.
Yeah, well, we're all tired, we're worn out. But I was told that in 2012. I was told you're going to do this, the Soulogy, whatever you call it. You're going to do this for about 10 years. I thought it would be, I don't know if it was 10 years, but I thought it would be like 59. I'm 60. I'm going to be 61 next month. But I think whatever we went through since 2012, there seemed to be like a little pause, like there was like a hiccup, and you know, something took a little bit longer. But I feel like it's almost here because they said at that point these kids will just take it away. I mean, run
Mm.
off with it, and to me that's always been like a frequency, energetic type of description, or the way I receive that download. So I just that excites me because you got kids coming in here telling their parents that I mean, like genius
Yeah.
level mathematicians, engineer minds. I mean, they're connected to their aspects and amazing.
And talking about their past lives, I remember when I was
Yeah,
married and
yeah,
mm,
yeah.
mm,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. I've known somebody that, let's see how this go, that had a twin and knew the twin in the womb. Twin didn't come out, or didn't, it transitioned. Full soul memory and everything. And then later on, two relatives spoke to my friend directly, and just a little occurrence, right? They were carrying the soul or one of them was carrying the soul of the twin from the in utero. So I mean, there's all these things. Things is, the memories bring back. I guess they trigger in a soft way, or some of them do. But ultimately, it's all about the code being awakened in ourselves, which you describe as, we're discovering our divinity.
Mm. Well, what's the other, we're only using 3% of our DNA. What's the other 97%? They call it junk. But I think that in there is invisibility, wings,
Oh yeah,
teleportation, all of these other things that, in a way, we can't even conceive of who we're going to be
I
because
know.
it's beyond the realms of our existence. And so we can imagine this and that, but I think it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I always feel like, well, not always. I mean, I used to say a lot. It's like we're in a fishbowl, upside down in a corner of the multiverse, and the rest of the multiverse runs the way it whatever, and we're over here, but we're coming out. And you know how the universe works. What was the smallest is the biggest. You know what I mean? Like the joke's on us. I mean, yeah,
Well,
you're
um, the first will be last and the last will be first.
yes, yes. That's funny you say that because I got that like a few weeks ago. Because there was this kind of a lot of people have said, like the feminine landed, the golden child energy landed, and then the masculine was the last to land. And anyone that's been following these communities for the last 10 years knows that the masculine's been straggling. but
I know.
but as I was going through my own anchoring, I heard the last in, first out. And I said, well, what does that mean? So I sat with it, in all ways. And what I got is that being the last one to join the party and come into alignment, actually, like when you have kids, I have 6 kids. The youngest one's always the smartest. And I don't mean that the masculine is the smartest. What I mean is it has the most um, it has like the highest level of frequency because it's worked with everything. It's made it happen. It's had to put itself into it, and then it the Trinity energy is born. But yeah, I so much of it to me just comes down to the human being. Like we underestimate our physical fearless actions in faith towards what we know, and the world's been trying to convince us is not true. That something energetically is really expanding like exponentially now when we take these measures and we really throw in 100%.
Mm. Well, my understanding is that this experience of polarity that we've been in and sort of stuck in. Eshia zakotaria shikomba kataki chat soko esi anga kopopoterikika. Sakatiki kingi kapachat sakamia daria teke tukuki esta asia takamaka. Idodaria shikomoya tarikikan zakatari chik ose se ekunge tadamaka. Izotia shushia zukudmaria tarakikan dia shadarikika tarikikan baluria riandarkika. Izotia shukudmaria tarikikan babarikikan zaka akakakakakakakakakaka. So what these guys are doing is dropping codes all through this so whoever is listening is getting all of this sort of, as you say, these codings is encyclopedia, and which will unpack over the next days and weeks. But what I was going to say before this popped in is that we are here doing having an experience that was very tough. And in as we come out of this, it's like we have added to a library of knowledge of what it is to be in polarity. What is it to forget that you are divine? What is it to forget that God exists? And this is just another experience of that any being could have when they're making known the unknown. But now that we are coming out of this, our knowledge is in like a library. It's like an encyclopedia. So anybody that's never gone down to this level of polarity will be able to take out that book and feel what we've gone through, feel it and understand and gain the wisdom of it without going through the stuff that we've been going through
Yeah.
and how stuck.
Yeah, they're living vicariously through us. That's why when I have my council meetings, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm on equal ground with you. We're the boots on the ground. I tell them that every night. I know I drive them crazy. Um, yeah, you were just saying something. Yeah, that's well. I mean, it's people say our biggest fear is the fear of our own power, but I think that's altered a bit. I think I think it's come. It just comes down to strictly a fear of the unknown because it covers everything.
Mm.
Like everything, like all concepts, all conceptual thinking. It's almost it's we're becoming just like I don't know how to describe it. Like instinct. Like it's natural. And when you said the value of having a experience in polarity, this one's really even different than that because it's a distorted duality. So it's like, polarity is one thing, but when you have a distortion, a duality on top
Yeah.
of it, oh my God, we've killed it. It's going to be. I mean, I don't want it to end. I'll probably be taking that back if I purge again for 3 days, like I did last week. But but
Oh, I'm ready for something new. I'm ready to, I don't know what, but something new would be fantastic for me. So I'm open to the next adventure.
yeah, yeah. Well, we came this far. We might as well show the universe nothing raises hell like the light. That's all I can say. Hey, it's a pleasure meeting you. I'd love to get together with you again down the road, and especially as we get into 2023, which I think is just going to be a great, fantastic year. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for coming in, and all blessings to you and yours. And hope to work with you again.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this fantastic conversation, Todd.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. You're a beautiful lady. Thank you so much.